Hello, my name is Cynthia Walters, and this is my midterm assignment. And what I would like to do is to go over three areas for current events, and that's California, Asia, and Latin America. Now, the running theme for all of these articles or events is the idea of protest. Each story or news report centers around protest or peaceful assembly. Now, most would agree that peaceful assembly is a fundamental right. However, these articles will show that it's not necessarily a right globally, and it's something that should not be taken for granted. On September 26, 43 men traveled from their college into a small city in Mexico and disappeared. It is reported that they headed to the small city of Agala to fundraise for their college and also to protest against discriminatory hiring practices. Now, during this event, the mayor's wife was scheduled to give a speech. According to the Attorney General, the mayor, Jose Luis Abarca, ordered police to prevent any disruptions at the functions. Witnesses say that when the students' bus arrived, the police or the gang affiliated with the police shot at the bus, killing 6 people immediately. Witnesses say that when the students, witnesses say the remaining students fled, but were later rounded up by police. And for weeks they had disappeared. A few days ago, the Mexico Attorney General met with the parents of the 43 students to report that unfortunately the remains of their children were found in a landfill after they received the confession of known gang members. The mayor and his wife have been arrested in connection with the murders. In Cambodia, residents of Bong Ka, monks and community activists descended on City Hall in protest against the fact that homes were being continually flooded due to a development of a local lake and has displaced hundreds of families since 2007. The land that is being developed is owned by, or the development company is owned by Senator Lo Min of the Cambodian People's Party. Now, at this protest, about a dozen protesters were arrested, 7 of whom received a sentence of a year in prison for disrupting traffic. 100 activists have submitted petitions to the National Assembly in Phnom Penh to ask for the assistance in releasing the Bong Kai activists and the monks who have been arrested. The National Assembly have vowed to petition the government to set up a sewage system at the lake site to prevent the flooding and to request the release of the activists. Now, in the United States, in California specifically, University of California students adamantly protest the University of California steps to raising tuition by 28% over the next 5 years. Some students in protest burst through metal barricades and police lines and broke a large glass entry door at the University of California, San Francisco campus, and also blocked doors and prevented people from entering into the parking lot. In this protest, only one person was arrested, and that was of a 21-year-old UC Berkeley student who was booked on 2 counts of felony vandalism and inciting a riot. Now, these 3 protests these 3 events do involve protests, and perhaps they were spurred on the protesters' concerned about greed, maybe nepotism, or perhaps the poor being taken advantage of. However, it is the protest that took place abroad that resulted into the excess imprisonment and murder. It's interesting to point out that those who support the increase of the tuition here in California say that this tuition increase will allow 5,000 more California students to attend school, and that more than half, or 55%, of the students attending will not be affected by the increase because their families make more than $80,000 a year and they qualify for financial aid, and through that their tuition is fully covered. So when we compare to the protest that's perhaps going on in California to the protest that's going on in Mexico over the lives of the 43 men who were brutally murdered, in some cases even tortured before they were killed, and we see excessive imprisonment in Cambodia, the comparison is not the same. But it is a sobering reminder to us that freedom is not free. What people often do casually in the United States in the form of protest would be life-threatening in other countries. So those protesters in smaller, more vulnerable communities hope to receive national attention so that pressure is applied from outside forces. But in order for us to treat these protests seriously, we as Americans should not dilute that freedom. We should not treat it casually. So, for example, these smaller communities, they use things such as social media. The school in which the Mexican students attended have more than 48,000 likes on Facebook, on their Facebook page. And in Cambodia, they were able to get the support of a Senate member who was born in Cambodia, and he has joined the protest to release those who were imprisoned. So, again, when United States students protest against tuition hikes, when most of the world does not even have the educational benefits that we do, it might appear that this nation is somewhat out of touch with the hardship of the world. But I think this is a terrific opportunity for missions to show empathy, to show the love of Christ to people who are hurting. And perhaps they cannot join in the protest of the injustices because it may lead to their deportation out of that country. But they can perhaps missionaries relay that information to those of us who are in the States, and that we can encourage those protesters through social media, through announcements at church, through financial assistance. So again, my point is that let's not dilute the beautiful tool of um, civil protest, peaceful gathering. And how can we tell when it is appropriate to have these types of protests? And one thing I would suggest is to do a litmus test. And that litmus test could be just a simple question. And that is, are you willing to die for this cause? And if you're protesting and you're not willing to die for the cause, then perhaps what we're participating in is just a collective tantrum. So again, from these reports, it really has encouraged me to not take protesting for granted, because it really is a matter of life or death to many people. Thank you.